tonight, the airline's facing tough new questions over how they screen their pilots for mental health. And a major development tonight when it comes to how many people must be in the cockpit at all times. ABC's David Curley on that part of the story.
With the airline industry still reeling after this chilling crash, Lufthansa reversed itself. Hours after defending its policy of allowing just one pilot to fly a jetliner for short periods of time, it will now require 2 people in the cockpit. Europe's aviation agency recommending that all airlines do the same, adopt what is already policy in the U.S. This, as many ask, how are pilots psychologically screened? Andreas Lubitz was not only tested by Lufthansa, he was also issued a medical certificate by the FAA. But getting a psychological clearance in aviation often involves little, if any, actual screening or time with a psychologist.
It's generally just conversation, kind of getting your impressions from conversation.
In fact, an initial FAA medical clearance requires a physical exam and a questionnaire asking if there is any sort of mental disorder, depression, or anxiety. And there are at least annual checkups with a doctor, but no face-to-face time with a psychologist.
People fall through the cracks. There's no set standard for how we're supposed to evaluate these people. So the first doctor or the second doctor can completely vary on their interpretation or their perception of an individual pilot.
And David Curley is with us here in the studio tonight. And David, it sure would seem that if someone did have mental illness and wanted to get into that cockpit, that they could find a way to hide this.
Under these current systems, even the one here in the U.S., that does seem to be a possibility. And some pilots are wary of even talking to a psychologist about issues they might be having, fearful that that information is going to go straight to the FAA and it could jeopardize their pilot's license.
All right, David Curley, who's been with us all week long. David, thank you. And I want to bring in ABC News aviation consultant John Nance tonight, a veteran pilot himself. And John, we all know that you flew commercial jetliners for 27 years. What kind of tests did you go through every year?
Every year I had a flight physical, and when I became a captain, it was every 6 months. But, you know, there was no psychological component to that. Unless you walked in the doctor's office acting goofy, there wasn't anything that he asked you about psychology.
But certainly this is going to start a discussion about mental health in the cockpit.
Absolutely, and we have to have that discussion, and it has to be pretty much worldwide. All the airlines are going to have to get to that question. Is it something that we can look for? Is there something that we can reliably ferret out?
And John, you were with me here last night calling for new global guidelines, 2 people in the cockpit at all times, you said, not just for pilots here in the U.S. And you heard Lufthansa's decision today. Do you think other airliners are going to follow suit?
I think pretty much every airline on the planet has to follow suit. It's basically something we can do right now to absolutely minimize the possibility of this ever happening again, and that's what we have to do.
All right, John Nance with us again tonight. John, thank you.